Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing WatchDives.com's first branded watch, the WD6105, which is a Captain Willard homage. So I received this watch for free from WatchDives.com. I don't have to send the watch back, but you know the deal by now. That's not going to sway my review one way or the other. And if by the end of this review you find yourself wanting to pick one of these up, I'll be leaving a link directly to WatchDives.com, their official site, down below, and I really would appreciate it if you use those links. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that, but it goes to show them that, you know, my reviews do help them out. The current retail price for this watch is $109 US, and that's before any discounts or sales. Currently, I'm actually seeing it for $99 US, so it does look like WatchDives will be discounting these things from time to time. The watch is available in two different colorways that you can see here, the classic black and then a sunburst blue. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, screw down crown, screw down case back, 200 meters of claimed water resistance. It's supplied on a stainless steel bracelet, and it is powered by the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. So this watch is priced and spec'd very similarly to the Addies Dive and Steel Dive Willards. And you know, these things have been around a while. They are proven to be excellent value, and if you're asking me, they are the exact same watch, except a few key differences. So I will highlight those throughout the review, but yeah, for the most part, we're going to keep the Addies Dive out of this thing so we can just talk about the WatchDives. So I say we get right into this review, but before we do a quick wrist check. Wearing my Suggest chronograph today. Haven't worn this one in a while, and I don't know why, because every time I put it on, I love it. All right, let's get to the dimensions. We got a case diameter of 43.5 millimeters, case thickness of 13.5, 20 millimeter lug width, a lug tip to lug tip of 47.0, total length of 47.5, sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist. Weighs 171.5 grams. So those dimensions, they are pretty much spot on with the Steel Dive and the Addies Dive. No changes there. I believe it's the same exact case. And yeah, I mean, it's great. You know, the 43 millimeters is a lot bigger than I usually wear, but it's nice and compact, 47 lug to lug, and decent thickness as well. And the case curvature, you can see here, it undercuts itself there, so it's very comfortable on wrist, and it wears great. I keep telling people this case, it'll surprise you. It always kind of worried me from when I first got the watch, and I mean, it wears great. I've got no issues with the way this thing wears, so I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, it wears great. You know, 43 is it's a big number, but these things, they just wear so well. It was the same thing with the Addies Dive and the Steel Dive. They wear great. I've got no issues with them at all. You got a little undercut to the case there, and it just makes it super comfortable. It's a pretty heavy watch, especially on the bracelet, but I still think it feels pretty balanced. I've got no real issues with the way this thing wears. Unfortunately, I have no direct sunlight today, and it's just been absolutely miserable here in Florida, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what it looks like outside. If it does get sunny, I will slip in some sunburst shots, but yeah, that's this is what it looks like right now. I like it. I'm going to go throw it on some straps though. And this is the strap, linked down below as the suede strap. I believe it's the camel colorway, and I think that looks pretty good. Actually, really like that one. What do you guys think? Here we are on a bright blue strap. It looks alright, I guess. It's pretty fun. But yeah, definitely wouldn't have been my first choice, but I figured I'd just throw it on anyway. I'll drop the link for these down below because these are actually pretty decent and very cheap straps. So yeah. Here we are on a blue, like a two-tone blue. This is not a Barton, but it looks exactly like a Barton Silicone Elite. If I do have the link for this, I'll drop it down below. It's actually a pretty nice strap for probably like $8 or $9 or something like that. So yeah, I think that looks actually pretty good though. What do you guys think? Here we are on a gray Marine National style strap elastic. One layer underneath the watch there. Sorry if this wind is getting to you. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Actually, I really like that. And the last strap for today is just a khaki colored nylon strap with 2 layers underneath the watch there. It still sits really nice, super comfortable. Absolutely love these setups. I've got no issues with it. I think that looks good. I like the color. But I'm gonna go inside because it is freezing out here, and yeah, we'll get back to this review. All right, so let's get close. We'll talk about the case finishing. Case finishing on this is done pretty nicely. It's right on par with Steel Dive and Addies Dive. You have a circular brushing on the tops of the lugs here, all the way around the case. Done pretty nicely. Got no issues with that. You've got polishing on the sides here. Again, nicely polished, no issues. Transitions are a little bit soft, but not too bad. Really only noticeable when you get up close like this. Flipping it to the crown side here, you've got, again, polishing on the crown guards there and polishing on the sides, and again a little bit soft on the transitions, but not anything anything bad. You've got your WatchDives signed crown there, and I think they've changed this crown just a little tiny bit. They on my Addies Dive, it actually protrudes out from the case just a hair. This one is actually sunken down just a hair, so that's just a very minor change, but nicely done. The execution of the case, I've got no real issues with it. Flipping it over to the case back here, you can see you've got a straight brushing on the bottom of the lugs, which is the same as the WatchDives and Steel Dive version. And then you've got a sterile, just fully polished case back here, screw down case back, simple notches to get a tool into. I think they could have done something on that, but I'm not too fussed about a design on the case back. I really wish they would have just brushed it, because that polishing is going to get scratched up, and it does kind of get greasy a little bit. But again, not a deal breaker at all, but just something to be noted. And so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So first we'll talk about the bezel insert. Ceramic bezel insert, glossy. You can see all the numerals, all the dots. They're all filled with BGW9 Lume. We'll get to the Lume shot in just a little bit. And I'm very happy with the insert. I've got no issues with it. I think the color matches nicely. It looks great. There's no bleed over or anything like that in the printing. Yeah, really happy with it. The alignment, as you can see here, just bang on, spot on, no issues at all whatsoever. It looks great. The bezel itself on this thing, pretty much unchanged from the Addies Dive and Steel Dive. It's fully polished, really nice grip on it as well. Nice coin edge, fully polished, as you can see there. I've got no issues with the grip on this thing. The action is very solid as well. You can see here you've got no back play at all. Very solid bezel, nice and smooth. 120 click unidirectional. Nice clicky action. You can feel all those clicks, but it's still very smooth, easy to operate. And yeah, again, it lines up perfectly. I've got no issues with the bezel on this thing. It's really nice. All right, let's test this thing for sapphire. And it is sapphire crystal. And I had no doubts that it would be sapphire. It's a flat piece of sapphire crystal. Nice big chamfer around the outside. Blue inner reflective coating. You can see it sits above the bezel. Pretty decent amount there, but I think it's protected enough that it's really not going to get chipped or anything like that. Yeah, I've got no major issues with it. The blue inner reflective coating, it's hard to see on the blue model, obviously, but I do have the black Addies Dive, and you can see that here. So same exact crystal, in my opinion. I've got no real issues with it. Even on the black model, the blue it just doesn't look that bad, in my opinion. So but yeah, so it's just something to keep in mind. I like it. You might not like it, but that's just what we have to deal with. But I do think it keeps the dial nice and clear, nice and legible, especially on this blue one. The blue AR is not an issue at all. All right, so let's talk about the dial on this thing. And the dial is done really nicely. We have an upgrade here over the WatchDives. So I'm going to talk about the upgrade right off the bat, and that's the handset. So the WatchDive and the Steel Dive, as you can see here, just a simple flat handset, fully polished. It doesn't look bad at all. But the WatchDives ones, they have been upgraded, and you can see here, really nicely done, brushed on the top, polished on the little chamfers. And I mean, they look really good. You have a fully brushed second hand. Yeah, I like the upgrade. I think it looks really good. It gives a lot more interest to the dial, and I think the hands just kind of pop that much better. Really happy with that upgrade. As for the dial itself, it's a glossy blue dial, strong sunburst effect. It looks great. I've got no issues with it. The alignment seems to be spot on. The indices are applied really nicely. Nice and sharp, nice and clean. I've got no problems with dust or fluff or anything like that under the dial. It looks great. You have a chapter ring around the outside here, as you can see, so in between the glass and the dial there. Just a matte blue or black, depending on the dial color. Yeah, it looks fine. I got no problems with that. Printed minute track around the outside, so the dial does look a little bit smaller. I know Steel Dive actually printed the minute track on the chapter ring on one of their models. I can't remember the model off the top of my head, and that kind of opened up the dial. That's not the case on this one. It's just like the regular SD 1970. It looks great. I've got no problems with it. You got your new WatchDives branding there. I think it looks pretty cool. Automatic water resist 200 meters down there at the 6 o'clock. Everything is done pretty nicely. I've got no problems with it. You got a framed date window there, and everything looks good. The handset is a good length. The lume on the dial is C3 Super Luminova. There's a slight mismatch between the dial and the hand color lume during the day. But yeah, I think it's pretty typical. Even, you know, the WatchDive and Steel Dive has the same problem. It's a pretty minor issue in my opinion. But the lume on this thing, it's great. I got no problems with it. I'm going to pop up a lume shot right now. Here you can see it against the WatchDive Willard as well as one other watch in the collection. And it does great. It holds its own, right on par with the WatchDive. I see no problems with that at all. I think it looks good. Nice strong lume, and it lasts all night long. And yeah, it's good lume. All right, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. So the movement is the Seiko NH35. I'm going to pop up the time grapher shot right here. Here's how this one's running. It's running pretty fast, I'd say, for a typical NH35. I get is around 10 seconds. So this one's about right around 20 seconds. Nice strong beat error there. It doesn't look like they are regulating these things, which is not really a surprise, especially for the price. I've got no major issues with that. I don't think all of them are going to be that bad, but just something to keep an eye out for. So this one is operated by this 4 o'clock screw down crown here. Got your WatchDives logo on there. Nice and grippy crown. Got no problems with that. Nice smooth screw out action. Get a nice solid pop out from the NH35. First position, hand winds it. Second position is your date changes. Nicely done, nicely centered. Third position, hacks the movement. So it is the NH35. It acts just like an NH35 would and how you'd expect it to. 21,600 beats per hour, 40 hours of power reserve. It hacks, hand winds. It does everything you need it to do. It's the perfect movement for this type of watch. I've got no problems with it. The screw in, screw out action, no issues with that either. Nice and smooth. Picks up the threads right away. Yeah, it's a nice crown, nice movement, no problems whatsoever. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. And the bracelet, again, I think is unchanged from the WatchDive except for the clasp. So we will dip right to the clasp. Before on the WatchDive and Steel Dive, you had a pretty nasty, just pressed shell. This one is an upgraded clasp from the WatchDives brand. It has WatchDives logo on it. Brushing on the top, brushing on the sides here. You got a polished chamfer there. A little bit soft on the transitions, a little bit of bleed over there. Tons of micro adjust there, 6 micro adjustment holes, which I love to see. It's a nice low profile clasp. It's just a pressed outer shell, but it feels pretty substantial. Milled inner bits here, nice solid tolerances there. I've got no problems with that. 2-button pusher here, no problems opening and closing it, nice and satisfying. It's a great clasp. I've got no problems with this clasp. Very happy with it. All these bottom edges are nicely rounded. I'm pretty happy with that. It's like kind of just a tiny step down from like the San Martin double button pusher clasp. Yeah, kind of the same type of design here. but it's a lot lower profile, a lot narrower. It's great. I've got no problems with it. But getting to the bracelet itself, you have solid end links, female pivot end links. You have brushing on the tops of the lugs here, which is done pretty nicely. You've got polishing on the sides there. You have the split pin design for sizing the bracelet. I had to remove 5 links for my 7.5-inch wrist. So this thing is sized up for a pretty big wrist, and then it doesn't really go down much further. So you can see here, I've got 1 removable link here and 1 removable link there. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, you do have plenty of micro adjustment here there, but yeah, it might only fit down to like I don't know, it's just a 6.5-inch wrist or so. The bracelet itself, it's not great. It's not terrible. It's pretty comfortable. You can see the tolerances in between the links there, pretty big spacing, and that's kind of where all this flex and all the jangle kind of comes from. Yeah, it's a little trade-off. It doesn't feel the best. I do like the clasp, though. I think the clasp is a big upgrade from the Steel Diver Addies Dive one. Yeah, I like that they changed that out. But, I mean, the end link fitment, you know, it's nice and solid in there. But you get lots and lots of jangle. You can hear it rattling around there. But with that jangle comes comfort. I think it's a perfectly comfortable bracelet. Just, you know, it could be a little bit more solid. Nice and fluid, though. Good size links. It feels balanced on wrist, so no major complaints with it, I guess. But it definitely could be better. But you know, this $100 price range is kind of what you expect for a bracelet like this. So there you go, guys. That's the WatchDives WD6105. I think it's a really good option. If you are kind of in the market for an Addies dive or a steel dive, I think the upgrades to this one with the hands and the new clasp and possibly that crown are worth it. I mean, those are good options, nice to haves definitely, and it's not any worse in any other area than the steel dive or the Addies dive, and those things are excellent. And this thing is excellent. I've got no problems with this. If you are in the market for a Captain Willard, I think you should definitely check out the WatchDives version. I think it's great. Yeah, I'm really happy with it, guys. So I'll be leaving their link down below. I think that's about it for me. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.